Every now and then, wild claims are made about the Springboks using performance-enhancing drugs. Not helped by photos like this making their way around the internet, jacked up physiques, incredible athleticism, overwhelming success. It's easy to see why people are starting to think this isn't natural. So I decided to look into it, and it gets pretty damn interesting. You can imagine my surprise when one of my favourite players, Elton Yantis, was recently banned for testing positive to clenbuterol. Clen's basically a medicine for horses or an insane fat burner for gym rats. I need to stick up for Yantis just for a minute though. He got the late call up into the Springboks just before the World Cup after bulk injuries in the fly half position, and I think he was just doing anything he could to cement himself a spot in the side. I'm not saying it was the right thing to do, and it was nowhere near as shocking as a PY Gianchi back in 2019. That guy was and still is easily one of the most electric players we've ever seen on a rugby field. I remember watching every Lions game in Super Rugby just to see what he would do with ball in hand. Plus, there's definitely a lot more players in the modern era that I would have suspected of doping before these two. So I just had to look up all the doping cases, and there's one country that leads the way by a mile. I was left absolutely shocked to see Australia second on this list, and I should have known, the only white line the Wallabies were crossing was off the field. Compare that though to South Africa's massive list of performance-enhancing drug abuse, and it does seem like there is a steroid culture. Look, can anyone confidently say though that the Springboks' success has been due to the use of performance-enhancing drugs? No, not really. In fact, the majority of their cases weren't even Springboks or that significant to the team. I can imagine it would be pretty frustrating being a Springbok fan and seeing all the articles completely undermining their international success. But isn't it weird that there's just so many players that have been busted compared to other countries? So I texted my SAFA friend and I asked him, what's with so many South African players getting caught on the juice? And his response was interesting. Firstly, he said that most of the players that have been busted were caught by the South African drug testing body and not the global ones. Probably the most high profile case recently, a PY Gianchi, breakout player of the year in 2018. He was in fact caught by the South African drug testing body, whatever they call themselves. And all I'm saying is, if this was a Wallaby that just won World Rugby's breakout player of the year, I would be peeing in the cup for him. Anyways, he also tipped me off that the bigger problem in South African rugby is actually at the schoolboy level. So I looked into it and he was right. I found this article stemming from a podcast including a South African rugby journalist who states, there has been a study done that 10% of schoolboy rugby players in South Africa over the age of 15, between 15 and 18, have admitted to taking some form of legal substance. So if only 10% have admitted it, you can imagine those numbers are significantly higher. Those numbers are crazy. Chinese Olympics crazy. No matter how long I searched, there was article after article on different groups of South African schoolboys getting caught. Like, I knew they were massive from highlight videos I've seen on YouTube, but I thought they were just older. There is a clear steroid issue in South African schoolboy rugby, which is probably the main reason for the high doping rates at a professional level. Imagine being a juiced up schoolboy and then deciding to come off cycle as you enter more physical competitions with men. And it's even crazier to think that so many of the current Springboks not just survived, but dominated in competitions that have plenty of people cheating to gain an advantage. What's the reason for all of this though? You don't just have a large contingent of schoolboys all wanting to inject themselves with needles or pop pills. Some believe it's due to just how popular schoolboy rugby has become. Televised coverage, crowds of up to 20,000 people, a lot of pride on the line. Could also be due to the country's huge emphasis on rugby and how it is a genuine professional pathway for so many South Africans. Hundreds if not thousands of professional South African rugby players playing all over the world. Could be the influence of watching Rassie and Jarks telling the boys to fuck them up physically before they run out onto the field. Really showing just how important size is to the Springboks game plan. But we also can't overlook the importance of rugby on South Africa's economy. And the better the product, the better the financial position for everyone involved. While many leagues have taken massive dips financially, South Africa's managed to keep their competition thriving at every level. There's just so many factors in this machine that is South African rugby at the moment. While I really don't believe their success at an international level is from players being juiced up. Not at all. You can attribute the exposure to higher quality competitions, even at a schoolboy level, to the steroid culture that exists. I think that's a fair argument to make. Hopefully there's some pretty serious steps taken because the narrative gets stronger every time a player's busted. Is it an issue that's everywhere in rugby at the moment and just not reported on? Is South Africa more rigorous in their testing? I'm keen to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.